Welcome. Welcome, friends. This is Leonor Murciano-Luna. Welcome. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about the time that we're coming into, the decrease of the light, coming into the dark from the equinox to Samhain, which is around October 31st and early November. And what the correlation is with our feminine power, why this is such a strong and powerful time. And so as I'm speaking about this, just take a minute to ground yourself, to take a little break perhaps from whatever you are doing, and to really allow yourself the space, the time, the framework or the mentality to be present here, to be present with your whole being, and to allow the words to perhaps even feel and sense what these words might activate in you. Because on deeper levels, we all know this feminine path. We know this. This is the path of our ancestors. This is the path of the medicine women. This is the path that really existed. And these truths are within us. This is the path and the reality that our pre-patriarchal ancestors lived in. And so this lives in your body as well. This is in your bones. This is in your DNA. It's in your blood. And so I want you to give yourself the opportunity to listen with your whole being and pay attention. Let yourself contemplate what's moved within you as we talk a little bit about the feminine path and some of the deeper truths that we find on this path of the feminine. So this time of year that we're moving into, after the fall equinox, we move into the nights get longer and the days get shorter. And it moves and it continues that way all the way onto winter solstice, where you have the longest night of the year, the shortest day. And between now and winter solstice, we have the holy day of Samhain, around October 31st, early November. And this time of year, in our pre-patriarchal culture, in the feminine culture, this time of year was the time of the end of the year, was the time of the darkness, was a time of death and releasing, and it was the time of also the last harvest and moving into that darkness, of course, that we may know as winter, whether you experience winter where you are or not. And in our culture that we live in nowadays, in the Western culture, the darkness itself, we've been severed in many ways from the darkness. We do not connect with the darkness, and we have learned that the darkness is evil, it's bad, we've associated darkness with all of these qualities that do not feel safe. And in many ways, we've been severed from the darkness. and also from our ability to experience death and grief and loss, and this spiral, this descent. And then, of course, along with that is the ascent, right? It's like this time of releasing, this time of letting go is a really, really important time, because it's also the time where we, just like nature, at the time of the fall moving into winter, you see how the leaves are being released from the trees, and where nature itself is dying. And it's this process of release and death and letting go. And we, again, in our dominant culture, we've been indoctrinated in many ways to fear the release, and to fear the letting go, and to move away from, even, like I said earlier, grief or loss. And in so doing, we actually separate ourselves from this place where we can connect with our soul, connect with the mystery of life herself, connect with the unknown, and rest and allow ourselves to regenerate. It's like thinking of like the darkness of the womb, where we can just be, and we're not doing it, we're not figuring out. And in our culture, we're used to being a culture of light, right? A culture of being in our doing, of being in this yang energy, Y-A-N-G, of this masculine moving outward yang energy. And that has gotten distorted in many ways, because there's no feminine to that yang. There's no descent. There's no going into the unknown, into resting, into the darkness that nurtures us, the darkness that connects us with the unknown, and even that ability to be in a space where we can feel held, but we don't know perhaps the answers. We don't know. We're in the mystery, entering the mystery. So to enter the dark is really to enter the mystery. And it takes a lot of surrender, and it takes a lot of being able to trust the unknown, to let go of our own doing, of our own will, of our own efforts to do, to manipulate, to create, to fix, and to rest in something greater than us. And for our ancestors, the winter time was that time, because there was no guarantee that you would enter winter and survive. This was the last harvest, technically the end of the year, before the year was shifted to the Gregorian calendar, which of course then we have the December 31st is the end of the year. But this time of the last harvest, the end of October, the beginning of November, this was the end of the year where you would go into the unknown. And you see this in nature, where bears hibernate, they go into the unknown. And the trees, the leaves are all moving into stillness. And for us as human beings, it's really about moving into the inward motion of connecting with the unseen world. And it's also, of course, a time of ancestors, because that is part of the unseen world. Connecting with the ancestors, connecting with the spirit of the other than humans that are all around us, of the water, of the fire, of the rocks, of the land, and the ancestral spirits of the land. And it's a time that's also known as the veils are very, very thin, because we're able to move into the mystery. And along with that, it's an opportunity to develop a relationship with our soul, with our essence, with our divine nature, and along with a relationship with all that inhabits the unseen world. And that in itself is this domain of the mystery of the feminine, where we allow the cycle, right? The cycle of life, death, and rebirth that continues, this ongoing cycle, where we can also release and let go of what no longer is serving us, right? And also letting go of our own identities that we no longer want to connect with and no longer need, so that we can move into this descent. It's this letting go process. Regenerate during that winter time, and then start that rebirth back around the spring equinox. And so this is the cycle of the feminine that we have lost in the ways of our dominant culture. This is the cycle. And this cycle is also, this is around the yearly cycle, but we also have this cycle on the lunar cycle every month. Every month we have, right before the new moon, we have the dark moon, the 3 nights of the dark moon. And in this time is a time of releasing completely. It's a time of merging with the mystery. And that mystery, we also refer to it as the Dark Mother. It's the Dark Mother that will strip you of everything, transmute the pain, the suffering, the thought forms, and release and clear everything that's not needed in your being. And this is a big part of the feminine path itself, to be willing to surrender, especially at this time. And also on the different cycles, there's the lunar cycle, and there's also the Venus cycle, which is a 19-month cycle, about 9 months, 8 to 9 months into the descent. Then she's in the underworld, and that's the regeneration time. And then another 8 to 9 months in the ascent, in the rebirth. And so all of nature, including ourselves, because we are part of nature, goes through these cycles. We all go through these cycles. This is the feminine cycle of death and rebirth. And so in our culture, where we are used to really, and I should say again, our dominant culture, where we are used to this kind of like hyper mobility, where we're doing, where we're not giving time for rest, for contemplation, for going inward, for developing a relationship with our soul, with our spirit. We're acknowledging the spirit of the land, the feminine in everything that's physical, where we've been severed from that idea. It's really almost the same thing as being severed from that which nourishes us at a deep level, at the soul level, that which we can rest in. And so we're used to doing and carrying the burden, feeling like we have to fix it, and being on this kind of merry-go-round where we find ourselves exhausted, where we find ourselves competing with other, judging our own ability if we can't quite produce, and also finding our value in that production, how much we're producing or not producing. And the feminine path, it shows us that our value is not in the production. We are divine beings. Divine beings, and that is our value. We are made in the template, the blueprint of the divine. And we all carry that light within us. Some of us have spent a lot of time activating that light, clearing the conditioning, releasing, letting go, going into the descent in our own psycho-spiritual journeys of activating our soul, of living from our soul, from our divine nature, and finding and developing a relationship with the feminine, with the mother. And some of us have not. And so we're in different places in our journey, but we all carry that essence, that spirit within us. And that divine, feminine, sacred feminine essence of the divine nature is in every single thing, every single physical thing that we see, including the earth, including all of creation. And so it's easy as a dominant culture to desecrate the earth and to just take and take and take from the earth, because as we're disconnected from our source of nourishment, the deep source of nourishment, which is the unseen divine nature within us, within the earth, which is this dark mystery, which is this dark mother space within us. As we're disconnected from that as a culture, then we think that we have to take to survive, take from the world, the creation, what we see. And we don't recognize that the planet is sacred and everything in it is sacred and has divinity and is divine. And so circling back around to Samhain, this time of year, and this descent into the darkness, this is where we can commune and find our peace, our rest, our nourishment. And we have to be willing to enter the dark, to make friends with the dark. Because like I said earlier, the dark in many ways has been correlated with evil and demonized and kept us. Fear is a great way to keep us from something. And so we relate to the dark with fear. So we have to be willing to also surrender that fear. And to be willing to develop, to cultivate our relationship with the divine in the dark. One of the things that I absolutely love, and actually we're going to create that in our retreat next year, is to allow ourselves to be in the dark. In the dark, or you can use something over your eyes to cover your eyes and to meditate in the dark, where there's no light coming in at all. And you can start to just, depending on how your relationship with the dark is, for a lot of us, it might bring up a lot of fear. It might bring up a lot of anxiety, discomfort. And we could do this in our own homes, where you could just, cover your eyes with something and contemplate the dark. Contemplate the mother in the dark. It's like coming back into the womb, but the womb of the mother, the cosmic womb, the mystery. And allowing yourself to, you could start with 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and just notice what's arising and bringing that into breath, letting yourself feel the feelings and bringing that into your awareness and allowing that to be transmuted just with your breath. I'm a big propounder of sound, so you could just sound into it. You can bring your hands to your heart and to your womb, your left hand on your womb, and just doing some heart sounds, doing some womb sounds, the ah for the heart, the ooh for the womb. And letting that, because the sound starts to transform, transmute. It's you can think of the sound is your out breath, right? And the sound is bringing love, it's bringing frequency into the discomfort, into the thoughts, into the stories that you might be carrying around the dark, into the fears, into the conditioning. And it's starting to bring the love. It softens it and allows it to transmute. It activates that alchemical process, metabolizes, dissolves. And so you can just gently do that 5 or 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Whatever feels like you can do it, and committing to that so that you can start to cultivate that relationship with the dark, which is really a relationship with the nourishment of the mother, so that you can allow yourself to receive the nourishment, to receive the love, to be held. And especially in the places where many of us feel very, very alone, very alone. And as the dark starts expanding, as the nights get longer, our loneliness comes to the surface, because it's almost like the light shines on it, and we feel the loneliness. And a lot of the loneliness that we feel is because we have been separated from the dark, from the nourishment, from the womb. And so taking the time to return, to come back in, to remember. And like I said at the beginning, this is something that's in your blood. It's in your bones. The ancient ancestral mothers of your lineage, the wise women, the well and wise ancestors, they know this truth. And so you can call upon the wise and well ancestors, especially at this time, calling them in, and then cultivating the dark, cultivating your ability to be nourished, to move into that regeneration before the rebirth, right? Because we need to let go. We need to release. We cannot just keep carrying on and on and on without allowing ourselves to deeply rest and connect with our soul, our divine nature. So during this time of Samhain, I invite you to commit to finding yourself in the dark, communing with the Dark Mother, with the womb, and to receive the gifts of this time of year. Many, many blessings. Thank you.